we had a session a few days ago with Danny Thompson, your favorite beat writer's beat writer, podcaster's podcaster, and I can also include your favorite co-host. Danny, welcome back to Late Night Parents.
I mean, Ted, it's like it feels like I'm always at home here, late night parents. I think I should go ahead and just move in and collect. I'm with my late night parents, so I might as well go ahead and move back at home as always.
Oh
But it's a
yeah,
pleasure.
you let me know when and where that you need logins and everything else like that, and we can have Danny at latenightparents.com. You say the word, and we got it.
Listen, that's a discussion we'll take offline. But you know what? It's always a pleasure, Ted. When you send the bat signal, I'm always ready.
So, Danny, there's a lot of things. Hey, John Ardmore is in the building. John, how you doing? Tony D is in the building. Gabriella is in the building. Knowledge is in the building. We're doing a quick conversation promotion with really one of my favorite podcasters, Danny Thompson. Danny, before we even get started, before I talk about our sponsor that I wanted to highlight tonight, what is going on with you and terrestrial radio?
Well,
Fill it.
I mean, listen, I'm now, like I said, for the last few months, I've been in the Tidewater area. For those knows, the 757, 7 cities. So now Saturday mornings from 9 to 11 on Sports Radio 850 AM or 96.5 on the FM side. I am a part of the Sports Insight 757 with Jay Lee team, host Justin Lee, myself, and a multitude of different people are on the show every week, talking all things sports, talking everything in the Tidewater, everything for your colleges, local high schools, and we talk everything national. So it's been great to, our first week was last week as a unit together, 2 full hours, callers, guests. It's been a lot of fun. I can't wait to see much more about it. So, you know, it's a different role not having to host a show and just to be able to be on with somebody who, I mean, Ted, who exudes passion. Justin has a really big thing of passion for sports, and he really wants to be great at this. And so, you know, I get to be able to enjoy myself and also be able to work with somebody who's extremely talented. So I'm in a blessed situation right now, to be honest with you.
That's good. That's good. It's good when there's a certain level of passion. I loved hearing the team get together for your first show. Really excited to see what you guys are going to do these next upcoming weeks as we delve deeper into the NFL season. Now with NBA's kicked off, we got the World Series, and don't forget NHL.
Oh, don't worry. The funny
There's a lot of people out there that love the NHL. Of
It's
course,
funny because
with the college sports, I'm really excited for you, happy for you. Um, I've, I've, I'm one of the few people who can say I've watched this journey up close. We've
yeah,
talked about it. We've
yeah,
talked about the highs and the lows of your journey. So
yeah, that's good.
really excited
The
about
the
what
crazy thing is you mentioned the NHL. It's funny because the first conversation Justin and I had were two black guys talking about hockey. Like in the first 5 minutes, we're both talking NHL like it's like we've been talking for 10 years. And so, no, big shout outs to Justin Lee, Ron, my man Ron Killett with his predictions. And like I said, you'll see more about it. You'll see a lot more on terrestrial radio. Like I said, this is just a start of something. And I'm glad to be part of it and part of the journey and part of the team. So it's different for me, but at the same time, I'm enjoying this. Like it's so much more enjoyable. But Beyond the Buzzer is still there. Kyle and I are still be there. Just taking a little bit of time for both of us to get some things together. But Kyle and I will be back together. Don't worry. We're like two peas in the pod. We ain't going nowhere.
Kyle Nash, who always holds down Thursday nights with you on Beyond the Buzzer, where you guys, really go heavy into football. Want to give a big shout out to Carmen, who's also in the building. She says, I ain't got nothing to say about sports, but hi, Ted. Hey, Carmen. Love what you're doing. Love the fact that you're getting out there and you are streaming and you're talking and you're building your audience. Love it. John Ardmore says, "Go Braves, beat the Chiefs." We won't touch that. We might touch that tomorrow evening with Bucko Bruce. Big
Hey,
shout out
what's up
to
in the building?
True Armor. Thank you for the Creative Genius Award. And so let's get into it. Hey, before we are, I don't know, before I'm patting myself on the back and you're patting yourself on the back, I want to give a big shout out to our sponsor. It's Trick or Treat Time, healthier candy alternatives. Our friends testing.com. Halloween is this weekend, which means candy sales will skyrocket. My wife today picked up 2 large bags of candy for the kids this week. Testing.com offers a registered dietitian who gave us some tips on giving out candy. If you want to give out some slightly healthier choices this year, but don't want to be that house that deprives kids of candy and only gives out fruits, there are a few candies-based options that are a little more helpful when consumed in moderation. First and foremost, providing the fun-filled candy portion is a great place to start. While kids love receiving jumbo candy bars, fun-sized candies provide a more appropriate opportunity for good portion sizes. In addition, if you're willing to spend a little bit extra, there are some brands that minimize artificial coloring, flavoring, and sugar replacements and use more whole food ingredients, such as Justin's Almond or Peanut Butter Cups brands that are unreal and have, many chocolate bars, M&Ms, peanut butter cup replacements with more natural ingredients and non-dairy for those lactose intolerant kids out there. Big shout out to our friends at testing.com.
Yes. I'm not sure about like I said, big shout outs to their foods and their ideas. And it's Halloween time, so I guess you gotta take care of the kiddos.
So let's go into. I was going to share a video before we get started. We talk about your top 75 list, which is on latenightparents.com. We got a few people that say I'm echoing. John Ardmore says oatmeal packets. Michael Bathurst is in the building. He says cameo candy. So let's go into the video of the evening. It is a rated G video, folks. Calm down, okay?
Family show, late night parents. Why would it be anything more than G?
And here we go. Pull you down. Pull me down.
The beauty of live television. Yep, okay. Live television.
Live TV, baby. Okay, so here we go.
Come on, hop on.
Good morning.
It's the NBA 75th. All right, guys. We're getting ready to take a stroll down memory lane. The one you left behind. It's all about the brotherhood here.
Good morning, neighbor. Top of the morning.
But also,
This is my house.
claiming what's rightfully yours.
This is my house.
Hey, seatbelts on, seatbelts.
Hey, Spider!
What's up, Russ? Take notes, kids. Flyest dressed in the NBA. Around here, it's never too late to learn a new trick.
What you want to do is get it off your fingertips.
From the sky hook
That's it.
all the way to the alley-oop.
Oh, throw it down, big man. Good pass, bro.
That was an instant class. This community right here stretches to every corner of the globe.
The globe doesn't have corners.
You know what I mean.
It's not us.
We've come a long way from the peach basket.
My bad.
Not again.
Where you think you going?
Gary,
You can't get by me.
they call him the glove. This is what he does.
Even nicknames take on a life of their own.
Somebody call the doctor?
Is that who I think it is?
This league is full of game changers. When it comes to legend, the NBA's got more than its fair share.
And I ain't finished yet.
That's what I like to hear. Some things are bigger than basketball. Now we've seen kids turn into kings and give it all back to the next generation. There's a piece of this game for everyone. Doesn't matter who you are, how old you are, or that too. Your move. Now that's just fun. Nice ride, Zeke. Hello. Good as clean. It's been 75 seasons and counting. One thing's for certain.
This game just keeps getting greater.
Game don't stop. It won't stop.
I said no.
Please?
Danny Thompson,
Yes, sir.
that was the NBA's, their infomercial on the top 75 players.
Yep.
First and foremost, we're going to do this in a certain amount of questions. Are you happy with the fact that the top 50 list stayed intact?
You know what? In the beginning, if you go check out the article on latenightparents.com, I did rate the 75 players. 75. On my original list, I did make some changes from the previous 50. I didn't include all 50. I didn't include all 50, but the fact of make that decision, I enjoy the decision. I think that you take out any of the 50, and I had a hard time doing it. You take away the history of basketball. Like those were the forefathers. When you look at the greatness of no matter what it is, whether it be music, whether it be any genre, it be books, it be anything, if you forget where you come from, you don't know where you are now. So for them not to take any of the original 50 out, I'm all for it. So I'm glad they kept the original 50. It makes the decision tougher, which 25 you choose afterwards. But hey, that's supposed to be the whole issue. Is who is the 75, but I have no issue with the first 25, the first 50.
So, Danny, the top 75 is really a top 76.
Yes. There was a tie. So we got 76. We're full revolution.
I want to get into some snubs with you.
Okay.
I'm going to say, I'm going to rattle. I won't rattle. I got 9 names that didn't make the list.
Okay.
Dwight Howard.
The biggest one of all of them. I think this is the worst one. Howard should have been the 75. He was a lock on mine. If I had to take 25 players since the NBA at 50, he was one of the 15 I thought was a lock. 3-time defensive player of the year, 5-time all NBA, multiple I think it was 8-time all-star, multiple all defensive teams. There's no reason why in any circumstances Dwight Howard should have been off this list. I mean, when you think about this position of center after Shaquille O'Neal, he was the guy. when Shaquille O'Neal, unfortunately, Shaq had started fading off in the sunset, Dwight Howard was that guy. And his teams won. In Orlando, he got to the finals. His teams consistently won the South, whatever you want to call it, the South Division, Southeast Division, whatever division Orlando was in, they kept winning when he was there. So you can't say winning was an issue. So I think this was just about as bad as Dominique or Bob McAdoo in the original 50.
Dikembe Mutombo.
He was one of the ones I thought about as well too. 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, block champion multiple times. He has a gripe, but not as big as Dwight Howard's. I would say he's one of the 5 guys that were, we look at the list. I think he's on that 5 that's right outside of the top 75.
Paul Gasol.
That's a tough one. I think
is Paul Gasol like a bubble type player for you? A bubble?
He was
top 75.
He was on the bubble list. If you're choosing 25 from the decade, he's on the bubble list. I had him in the 75 on mine, but I remember on mine I subtracted 11 of the top 50. So he made the 11 when I took out 11 the original 50, but he's a borderline guy to me.
Someone that was inducted a couple of years ago, and there was some grumbling. T-Mac, Tracy McGrady.
McGrady was an outstanding scorer, but I didn't have him in the original 75. I mean, outside of scoring, McGrady was he's a Hall of Famer, but because you're a basketball Hall of Famer doesn't make you one of the 75 greatest players of all time. Offensively, one of the most gifted offensive scoring machines in the history of basketball. But it was a combination of injuries, a combination of he didn't really get out of the first round of the playoffs, and they're just other players that just had better resumes throughout their career. I look at Tracy McGrady the same way I look at Bernard King. Outscorers, but substance.
Probably one of the greatest players who never achieved their skill set or where they should have been in history due to injury. Grant Hill.
You just mentioned the injuries. Grant Hill and Derrick Rose would have been on the 75 if injuries didn't take a precedence. And I think what would have saved both of them is one of them winning a 6th Man of the Year. If they would have had they would have won one, you would have had a little bit more argument. But man, Grant Hill and even Derrick Rose, when they were before injuries, were something else. There were problems everywhere.
Cope's Corner. Big Mike. Mike, thanks so much for the award. Much love to you, and can't wait. As always, Mike has the best MMA show on this platform.
Yes, they do. I've seen that many times. Yes.
Vince Carter.
For Vince to have been longevity. I mean, but
Right,
outside the dunk championships and the fact of his best moment of his career happened in a game that wasn't an NBA game when he cleared Frederick Weiss in the Olympics. Vince is legacy. I mean, he played in 3 decades. He scored in 3 decades, but I don't think he's one of the 75 greatest. He was great. He was a great player, but not on that tier list.
Tony Parker.
Tony has such an argument. He's one of the most underrated players, not to mention this decade, but in the history of this league. Tony was never a 20-point a game scorer. He never averaged 10 assists a game. Tony just knew how to play the game of basketball. And, he gets kind of in that box because he played with under Greg Popovich and played with Tim Duncan and David Robinson. But the man's got finals MVPs. He was just an all-around great. He was a killer in the playoffs, but he just falls just a little bit short of this list. But I think he's an honorable mention, definitely.
Does Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili kind of fall into that? I don't know, that pocket of players because they had a great player like Tim Duncan.
To me, honestly, Ginobili has just much to say. about not being in 75, as the majority of players in this list that you're probably going to name. Ginobili is this generation's version of what Dennis Johnson was in the 80s with Boston. I know Dennis Johnson won a championship, in Seattle, was the guy in Seattle, but a lot of people remember Dennis Johnson for what he did in Boston as a six man and as a guard for Boston. I mean, Ginobili revolutionized how we looked at six man in the NBA. If it wasn't for Manu Ginobili, we wouldn't have had what Jamal Crawford and Lou Williams did. And those two guys, Williams and Crawford, were starters at the beginning of their career. That transition. Ginobili was a six man coming into this. So, like I said, for me, Ginobili has just as much of a gripe as a lot of people do, and I'm surprised he wasn't on 75 or 76.
Are you okay with James Harden making the list?
Yes.
Damian Lillard making the list, and Klay Thompson being left off the list?
I had both of them on my list, meaning Harden and Lillard on my 75 list. Here's the thing with Klay Thompson. Thompson's one of the greatest shooters of all time. But outside of the championships, the individual, the accolades and awards that preceded him is not as large, his resume isn't as deep as other guys on the list. When we're saying the greatest shooters of all time, he's definitely in the top 5 and maybe even top 3. It's just that he plays next to the greatest shooter in the history of basketball.
Definitely true. Big Mike, thank you for the Super Hard Award also. Let's shift real quickly. You can find Danny's article on latenightparents.com. Thank you so much for the guest submission. What's going on in Brooklyn? Or should we be, it's 1 week in, it's game 3. Should we be nervous?
No.
What should we be thinking?
There's no reason to panic. I mean, you're 1-2. Yes, yesterday was not very good. They got beaten by Charlotte, who was missing Terry Rozier. LaMelo Ball didn't even play in the fourth quarter, and Gordon Hayward scored only 8 points in that game. And you lost to a team that was allowing Ish Smith and Cody Martin to outscore you in the fourth quarter. And you had a healthy Kevin Durant and James Harden on the floor at the same time. So no, I don't particularly find it to be alarming at this point because we're still in October. Ted, we even haven't given out Halloween candy, and we haven't watched Charlie Brown's Halloween special yet. So I don't see anything dangerous in the first week of the season. I don't. Even as bad as the Lakers have been, I don't find anything to be, earth shattering at this moment unless somebody gets hurt at this point.
So we did a little East Coast, West Coast. The Lakers won last night. Carmelo is receiving his flowers while he's able to pass Moses Malone. Carmelo, top 75. Yes. Was he also on your list?
He was on mine. You mentioned he's now in the top 10. He's number 9 in the history of the NBA in scoring. Like, there's no reason why he's not on this list. There's no reason why. I thought he was a lock. He was one of the locks I had.
We got Mike in the comment section like, Melo, I ain't taking. LOL.
He must be a Knicks fan. It's got to be the answer.
What else is going on your way? What's going on in your world? We know a lot of things that are happening with we know we got a lot of things going on with the radio show. Mm-hmm. Where else can we find you on social media?
Check me out on Twitter at Danny. That's DANNY, number 3 Thompson on Twitter. I will be on Haps. I'm not sure if it's going to be on tonight. Hornets Post Game Live will return either tonight or return on Wednesday. Providing all the Hornets post game coverage. That's the best post game coverage you're going to find with the Hornets. Check out my work at the3pointconversion.com. And you never know where I'll pop up on Late Night Parents. You never know.
Thanks again, and thank you for hearing my family in the background also. Not sure if you were able to hear them or not, but
Ted, you forgot one snub on the list, Ted.
oh, who's the one snub?
Ted, you forgot the guy who I thought had just as much as gripe as Manu and Dwight Howard. That's Alex English.
Alex English.
The number
What
one
about
in the 80s, the guy who had more points than anybody in the 1980s was left off the list for the second time.
hey, did they correct? I will say the NBA corrected a few things by adding Dominique, and the second player was
Bob McAdoo.
Bob McAdoo.
If they would have missed this list, I would have rioted. I rioted the first time. I would have rioted the second time.
So it's actually okay. So you got the 50. So you got the 52.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we don't feel
It's
so
hard.
bad.
It's hard choosing. So when you take the 23 that's left, or 24,
Mhm.
I had 15 guys on my list that were locks, and everybody else was like, okay, it's bubble. Like, if I were to do the list over again, just keeping the way it was, I would have taken out Anthony Davis and swapped it with Dwight Howard.
Okay.
That would have been one. And we're coming down to, honestly, Reggie Miller, Damian Lillard, and yeah, those would have been the last two. And if I would have to swap those out, it would have been Alex English and, man, it'd been between Lillard and Ginobili at that point for the last spot. And I wouldn't have been wrong either way.
Gotcha.
But I think Alex English deserved that spot. It's crazy because we all love Reggie Miller, but he only has 3 All-NBA appearances in 19 years.
It's true. That's true. Hey, I do want to give a big shout out to Knowledge, Gabriella, Tony D, John Ardmore, Carmen, True Armor, Mike Bathurst, of course, our guy Cope's Corner, Big Mike, and everyone else who was able to comment and was able to be a part of the live stream. So I want to thank you guys again. Before we go, I would say, John, probably one of the best 30 for 30s is Reggie Miller versus the Knicks.
Oh,
and
I mean, Ted, Ted, that's a show for LNP. Like,
yeah,
what is the top 30 for 30s?
top 30 for 30.
I mean, Ted. So Ted, I mean, I'm now going to put myself in the host chair and make you the guest here.
Okay.
What is your top 30 for 30s?
Broke with the NFL.
Okay.
The Ric Flair.
Okay.
And the Reggie Miller versus the Knicks.
Okay.
What's your top 3?
Man, I would say Broke. I mean, because that was a phenomenal documentary about just on how basketball was, just how sports is, and how broke you go completely. Number 2, I'm gonna say the 30 for 30 with the WNBA and the bubble.
Okay.
I think if you're not a fan of women's basketball, and there's a big majority of people who are not, it is what it is. But if you watch the 30 for 30 on the bubble, and you get to see these women go through something completely different because they don't have the same things the men have, and you see the stories, there's more than just Diana Taurasi. Every team story is being told in this story, and you'll have a new appreciation for the league. And that was an outstanding documentary. Big shout outs to Shanae and Gumake and that entire team that did that. That's just a phenomenal 30 for 30. And Ted, I'll be honest with you, man, I want to say Reggie and Spike, but man, that Bad Boys one.
The Bad Boys one was pretty good.
I mean, the Bad Boys one was like outstanding. You mentioned Ric Flair, and then like honorable mention, Catholics and Convicts.
Yes.
Notre Dame, Miami.
Yes.
Those are some of the best ones. I mean, Ted, we can do a whole show on just the 30 for 30s.
30 for 30s.
That might be an article on Late Night Parents. Who knows? But that'd be a great topic, though.
We definitely support the WNBA, and Danny, who would always take his daughter to WNBA games, and when my daughter was younger, I would always take her to WNBA games. You got to understand it, Love the game. Love just the atmosphere of the game, and it wasn't a bad seat in the house. Danny, we're at 30 minutes. I wanted to stay true to you because I know you have to deal with, I know you were doing some technical support for the missus.
Yes.
Please promote your weekend show on terrestrial radio so that everyone knows about it.
Listen, if you're in the Tidewater area, which is Norfolk, Newport News, Hampton, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, Poquoson, Portsmouth, this entire Tidewater area, Saturdays from 9 to 11 a.m. on AM 750 or otherwise on the terrestrial side 96.5 sports radio. Myself, Justin Lee, the entire team over there, we do a show called Sports Insight 757 with Jay Lee. If you're not in the Tidewater area, can't get to it, listen, you can download the Sports Radio 850 app anywhere, either on Android or Apple. Just type in Sports Radio 850. You'll see a gray moniker on there. And you just download the app and just tune in. You can definitely call. We actually take text messages on air, and we're working to get everything live streamed on Facebook as early as Saturday. I'll give Ted the links to have everybody know that if you want to call in, you'll never know who will pop by. We're growing the show every single week, and like I said, Ted, it's great to be on terrestrial radio again. It's great to be in the Tidewater and to be able to tell the stories. And Carmen, yes, I am a huge WNBA guy. I cover the Phoenix Mercury on a daily basis for the 3pointconversion.com. So if you want to check the website out or check out the YouTube page, you'll hear my voice on many of the Mercury press conferences going all the way back from before the Wubble. So yes.
All right, we're in overtime. We're at the 32-minute mark. We're out of here. Peace and love to everyone. Thank you, and we'll see you soon.
Yes, sir.